was the homework? Now, I'd love to see some, the thumbs up or thumbs down, or I'm really worried about the thumbs down. No, I don't see any thumbs down yet. That's a lot. Sideways, sideways, sideways. Sideways is okay. Sideways, oh, Nora, thumbs down. Wow, we'll have to talk later, okay. Nora, whatever it is, bring it up in the Q&A, please, okay? Make a note. Anybody else thumbs down for the homework? No, okay. Everybody else is okay. Katrine, nice to see you, and nice to see thumbs up. That's very, very nice. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So a couple of little things, a lot of recap things I want to bring up. Last week, as all of you remember, we talked about the two narrators. We talked about the dialogue, two narrators, and the difference between the two narrators and the difference between dialogue scenes. And basically what we're doing is we're moving closer to getting inside the character and what's going on with the character. Our goal would be today, even more so than last week, is to get deeper inside the character. And when I say the character, I mean your character in your story, the story you picked, and your character at the time of the story, not you at the moment today, but you at the time of the story. We're going to go deeper into that. We've heard from several of you that, which is fine, that you're struggling with some of these concepts. I totally understand that. This is sometimes a new way of thinking, a new way of approaching characters, a new way of approaching writing, and it can be a struggle. But, you know, out of struggles come a lot of good things. This is a little bit, think of it this way. You're taking a writing course. You all know how to write. You do. I mean, you've written us emails, so I know you know how to write, but you're actually learning a different way of writing, a different way of expressing yourself, a different way of expressing a story, a different way of exploring characters through your writing. It's different, I understand that. So in a way, it's like learning a new language or learning a new instrument. It's going to be bumpy at times. It's not meant to be bumpy, but it will be for some of you, and it will be bumpy at different places for different people. So just be aware that's normal. And of course, we are here, Elsha and I are here to help you get over those bumps and survive those bumps and keep going. We don't want the bumps to stop you. This is why we put up the replay of, like, last session is up on YouTube. I don't know how many of you have watched it, but a lot of you have. Wendy says she did. Good. Wendy, were you here last time? Were you on? Oh, you weren't. But thank you. And the replay worked for you. You got everything you needed from the replay. Good. A lot of thumbs up. I like that. This is a fast conversation. I can keep right on. Wendy, you would like this way of conversation because you'd never have to stop talking. I know you. You just keep right on talking. And you don't have to deal with words coming from somebody else. Okay, so the replay is there for all of you. I'm encouraging you to do two very, very important things during the rest of this course, which will make a big difference. Two or three, actually three. Number one, listen to the replay. Listen to the replay of this one. Go back and listen to it again. I can guarantee you when you listen to it the second time or the third or the fourth, and these replays are available just for you, just for this group, probably until about the end of September. A long time they'll be available. Listen to them again. When you listen to it another time, you will hear something new, or something will click, or suddenly something will make sense. That's why it's there. Number two, and this is really important, Elsha and I have an email system, delivery system, where we can tell not only how many of you have opened your emails, but I hate to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you this, we even know who opened their emails. Now, quite honestly, about 1/3 of you are not opening your emails from us in relationship to this course, which makes no sense, because in those emails, so this is to those of you who have not opened them, in those emails is very, very valuable information, just not the link on how to get in or news like that, but what Elsha does, the brilliance of Elsha, she and I listen to your responses, then Elsha crafts a new document, a new way of looking at it. She just sent you new material on the two narrators. She just sent you new material on the first 3 steps or the first 3 questions in terms of exploring a character. New ways of looking at it, new information. We will keep feeding you during these 6 weeks a lot of new information. And we expect you get it and you read it. But if you don't open your email, you won't get it, you won't read it. This is a part of what you signed up for. So a lot of information is in there. So please open up your emails, look at it. And the third thing is do the homework. Do the homework. As difficult as it might be, as painful as it might be, even as confusing as it might be, if you don't do it, you won't progress in this process at all. You'll sort of sit in one place. So do the homework, open the emails, watch the replays. That's it. That's my little lecture to all of you this morning about what we need to do. Now we're going to start to move on into the new material. Another thing is, getting back to what I was just saying, if you have watched the replays and you have done all the homework and you've read all the material and you're still stuck after all of that, and you're really stuck, that is when you make the bold choice to write to Elsha. Don't write to Elsha and say, no, I didn't watch the replay. No, I didn't do the homework and I didn't read your emails. Don't do that, because that's pointless. That's a little irritating. But if you have done all that work and you're still stuck and you're working hard, write to Elsha. The beautiful thing about Elsha is she will write back to you. She will get back to you. She'll answer all your questions. You can have a personal conversation, via email with Elsha to help get you over whatever hump you're in. Okay, so just use that whenever you want. Use it respectfully. Okay, now we're going to move on to something new, which means it's time for a drink of water. Sparklets, it's great. Okay, so I have a story that I'm going to read to you. Every week, I'm going to read you a story that I've written. It's an autobiographical story, just like the one I read to you last time called In the Beginning. This one is called Curly, okay? Curly, like in curly hair, like in my hair, which has a tendency to curl somewhere. When it gets long enough, it gets curly. So, but before I read this to you, I want to talk to you about one thing that's very, very important in this entire process, in this, not just this course, but in the whole process of storytelling, the act of listening. Are you a good listener? Now, those of you who are actors who have taken acting classes, they say, okay, acting, half of acting is listening. You got to be good at listening and all that. But I want to put a finer point on it. What kind of listening are you doing when you hear a story? What are you listening for when you hear a story? Okay, Diego, my camera just shut off again. When you are listening to a story, I'm going to give you there are many, many different ways to listen. This is what I call mindful listening. I'm going to give you four different ways to start with. One, in terms of listening, just listen to the details of the story. Listen to the events of the story. Just listen to what is happening. In other words, you can focus your listening on one aspect of the story. Another way to listen, or even simultaneously if you can, is listen to what is in between the lines. What is not being said? What is being implied by the story? What is the subtext? Subtext is something we'll talk about a lot later, but what is the subtext of the story? What is really going on in the story? Another way, a third way, and please, I hope some of you are writing this down. Can you listen with your body, not just your ears? Let your entire body be your ears. Be aware that as you hear stories, your body reacts. Our bodies, as we hear stories, as we receive stories, our bodies receive them and sort of record them and hold on to them. And so there are places in our body that react to various parts of a story. be aware of what your body does. Does it become restless? Does it become relaxed? Where in your body is that piece of information impacting you? Okay? And then along the lines of what we talked about last week, can you listen for the details of the story, the aspects of the character in the story? Can you listen? Are you clear about what the character wants? Are you clear about what the character really needs? Are you clear about what's in the way of that character getting it? What are the obstacles that are in the way? Are you aware of any of that? Are you aware of what the risks are that the character is taking? And sometimes, many times when we were doing live workshops, we would hand people cards and say, listen to the story with this in mind, with this in mind. And sometimes it was just objectives and obstacles. Listen to the story. And then we would ask that student later, what were the objectives? What were the obstacles? But you can do this by yourself. Focus on the story. So as I'm reading this story to you today, as I'm reading this story, what I want you to do is just listen. Now it's just listen. Just listen to the story. I'm going to read the opening of the story probably a couple, 2 or 3 times. The first time, just listen to absorb the story. Listen to the details of the story. Okay, they don't, it's just about 2 minutes, a minute, 2 minutes of an opening of a story. It's called Curly. Okay, here we go. It's recess. I'm 12 years old. Somehow I made it as far as the 5th grade. I'm outside again. I'm staring at the yard. The schoolyard is full of students, laughing, playing, teasing, happy students, playing together. I don't move. I don't want to move. But I don't want to be alone. I know I'm supposed to mingle, as my mom says. I know I'm supposed to find friends, as my dad says. So I'm looking and I'm watching, and I need to find someone to play with, someone to talk with, to be with, so I can tell Mom that I mingled, I shouldn't be alone. I really don't want to be alone. Now, you know, that's not really true. When I was 12 years old, I did want to be alone. I knew if I stayed alone, no one would talk to me, which was really good. I knew I didn't have to say anything to anybody because I knew I wasn't very smart. So I was happiest when I was alone. You have to learn how to talk to people, Mark. That's my dad. He can talk to anybody. Hey, Curly! I know that voice. That's Benny McNamara. No one else sounds like Benny. It's all gravelly and raspy because of all the cigarettes he smokes. I wish I liked cigarettes because then maybe, hey, Curly! I turn and I look across the yard and there's Benny. And he's looking at me, right at me. Now he's walking towards me. And he keeps yelling, hey, Curly! Wow, Curly. Must be my new nickname because of my curly hair. I love my curly hair. So that must be my new nickname, I hope. I mean, that's nice. That's really nice. I mean, Benny gives all his friends nicknames, and now he's giving me one. Wait till I tell Mom and Dad that that'll make them happy. I can tell them I do have friends. Benny and his buddies are with him. Elmo, Hopalong, and Decker. Those are great nicknames, too. Hey, girly, nice legs. Oh, shit. Oh, shit, it's not Curly. It's Girly. Go, gotta go, gotta get out of here, gotta get out of here. Hey, Girly, do you like your new nickname? I'm gonna cry. No, don't cry. Don't let them see you cry. Do not let them. Hey, what do you think, Decker? You think Girly likes his new nickname? Gotta pee, but I can't pee, gotta pee. Yeah, I think he likes it a lot. I think Girly just wants to be a girly. They all laugh, except for Benny, because he's standing right in front of me and his cigarette is hanging from his lips. Hopalong and Elmo are leaning on his shoulders, giggling and leering at me. Decker drifts behind me, mumbling to himself. Benny takes his cigarette and flicks it straight at me. It bounces off my chest. Girlie got nothing to say? Don't cry, please don't cry. Don't let them see you crying. Tears rip at the edge of my eyes. I wet my pants. I don't move. Okay, that's the opening of a story. So, listening. Question is, what did you hear? What did you listen for? Now, one aspect about all of us that's really true is that we have, all of us, voices in our heads. We have voices in our heads that we talk to and they talk to us. You all know this. Everybody in the world knows this. There are these voices. I have voices. I have a voice that I call Vic because he's my vicious inner critic and he thinks I can do nothing right or right. And so he's constantly criticizing me. And I have other voices. There are several voices. And one of my problems with these voices is they're always seem to be in conversation about what I should be doing or shouldn't be doing or whatever. So I have given these voices in my head a name. It's the same name for the voices in your head. And I call them the committee. I call them the committee because they always seem to be having a meeting about something. There's a debate going on about something. And sometimes they let me participate and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just work it out all by themselves and then tell me what the verdict is or whatever. So think about it. Your committee, the voices in your head, think about those voices. There are several of them. There's those that support you. There are those that criticize you. There are those that sound like people you know, either whether it's parents or neighbors or husbands, wives, whoever. Those are the voices in our head. Ironically, we can't get rid of them. They are there. They are there all the time. Now think about what those voices know. The voices in your head know everything about you. Everything. For those of you who are in a relationship, husband, wife, lover, whatever, children, whatever, those voices know more than anybody else in the world. Those voices hold all the secrets. That world inside you, that world inside me, that world inside every single character that we develop or create, whether it's fictional or not, that world of the committee is the most powerful zone of all. That's the world we want to get into. In your story about you at another time, at another event, your character at that age, at that time, has a committee. Now, it's different than your committee today, but it has its committee. My little 12-year-old boy that I'm reading about has a committee. He has a committee of voices that are working ferociously inside his head. Now, if we could get inside that committee, if we could understand that committee, we would really understand that character. And if, when you're writing, if you can reveal to the audience what's going on inside the committee, what the voices in the side of the head of your character are saying, are expressing, are fearing, are desiring, now you've got us, the audience, the listener, deep inside your character, right where you want us to be. This is where the richness is. This is where the gold is. Okay, now with a show of hands, does everybody understand basically this idea, this concept? You get the idea? Thumbs down if you're totally confused, because one of my job is to avoid confusion. I don't see some thumbs down yet. Nora, you don't even have a thumb anyway, so then, oh yeah, thumbs up. Thank you, Nora, that's good. Okay, Martin, thank you, Elwin, Rena, thank you. Thumbs, okay, so you all got the idea, you've got the concept of the committee. Now you have a committee. You have a committee, okay? Now, to make it a little bit simpler, because this can get very complex, I want to shift to the voices of your committee or my committee. There are two primary voices, two primary. We call them the ally and the nemesis. The ally is the voice that supports you, that thinks you can do no wrong, that thinks you're brilliant, that you're a gift to the world, whatever. We love that voice because it's the voice that lifts us up and inspires us. That's the ally. This is one that Elsa just sent you some information on. I think in the last email, she's broken all of those areas of the ally down. Then there's the nemesis. That's the other voice. Just think of these two voices. The nemesis is the critic. The nemesis is the voice that will criticize anything and everything you do, thinks you do nothing right, thinks you're a waste of time, that you're a miserable human being, whatever it is, will constantly criticize you. Some people like to think of this as good cop, bad cop. That's fine. Or devil and angel. That's fine, however you think about it. But just think about these two voices, these two very, very powerful voices in your committee. Now, I have a writing exercise I want you to do right now. Okay, you all have a piece of paper or something. And it's better to do this. I think it's better to do this on paper rather than computers, because computer keyboards, you get all messed up with the keyboard. Just if you can take a piece of paper, split it down the middle, right down the middle, just draw a line down the middle. On one side, put ally, and the other side, put nemesis. Okay, now, if you've done that, everybody's got that so far. Now, I'm going to give you 1 minute. 1 minute to write under the nemesis. Or you can do this on a separate piece of paper too, if you like, if you need more room. Under the nemesis, write all the things the nemesis says about you. All the things, all the opinions that voice has about you. Now remember, that's the destructive one. That's the critical one. That's the one that could drive us right up against a wall. Just start writing. I'm going to give you 1 minute and start now. Okay, how's everybody doing? You can all hear me? You got some thumbs up? That's nice. I'm looking at the other group. Okay. Everybody else, I am looking at you. I am looking at you. I see you, Roland. Arzu, I see you. Thank you. Nora, you're smiling. That's good. Okay. So now you have a long list of what the nemesis says to you. Now, I'm going to give you another minute just to write the other half, the other side, what the ally says to you. Now, one comment about the ally and the nemesis. Just after years of working with a committee, years of working with a lot of writers, actors, directors, with this concept of the committee, which is also a central part of the interrogation process, which we'll talk about a little bit at the end of today's session. This concept of the committee, a lot of people embrace it passionately. And the way they embrace it passionately is because, curiously, a major majority of people love the nemesis. They love the attacker. They love the critic, and they get so ferocious with the critic. And so many people struggle with voicing the ally, especially in the case of what I'm asking you to do, is to voice it about yourself. About yourself. So the ally is going to be, for a lot of you, a bigger struggle. So now 1 minute to write under your ally column or on your ally page, all the wonderful, beautiful things that your ally says about you. Okay? And Go ahead and start. Okay, so we're back. How's everybody doing? Okay, Judith, thumbs up. Oh, bless your heart. Joseph, okay, just Ketrin, okay. Anybody need more time? No? Yeah, maybe not. Okay, so looking at those two categories, these are very special categories. This is what your committee is expressing to you. This may be very similar to what your committee is expressing to your character in your story. Now, I suggest as part of your homework, do this exercise again. Just the comments here. Just do it again. What the ally says, what the nemesis says. Do it again, but do it about your character at the time of your character in the story. You have your story, whatever age your character is, it doesn't matter. But there's a time. In fact, if the best thing to do is to be very specific, make it at the time just before your story starts. What is the ally saying? What is the nemesis saying? What is the conversation or the chaos that's going on inside your mind at that time of your life, at that moment? What's going on? This is gold. This is rich. This is going to inform your story enormously. I'll jump ahead a little bit, and then I'm going to read a little bit more to you from my story. To jump ahead a little bit, what you want to be able to do when you're writing your story. Now, becomes a little subtle, so hang on. What you want to be able to do is have the listener and the audience get what the committee is saying. Get it without you saying it. Without you saying, I mean, I've had some people I've worked with saying, oh, the voices in my head are saying, well, that's sort of a little clunky. It's not very subtle. But you want the audience to pick up what's going on inside you. And this is how the audience gets to know you. This is how your audience gets to know your character, which is you, that you're writing about at the moment. They really get to know you because they can sense and feel what's going on inside you during the story. Now, one little side note on this. Teaching this course, as I have for 30 years or whatever, there have been many times, and there are in this group right here, there are many of you are screenwriters, I know that, and excellent screenwriters. And many times when I start talking about the committee and revealing what's going on with the committee, I've had instances where, very respectfully and lovingly, screenwriters have gotten angry. They got angry. They say, how you can have your naive narrator express what's going on inside the character while the story is going on? I said, absolutely. You can really do that. Absolutely. See, I write screenplays. I can't do that. All I can do is say, this is what the character does, and this is what the character says. That's it. And that's true. That's part of the restrictions of screenwriting, part of the power and the opportunities we have in terms of writing this way. Verbal storytelling, especially with the naive narrator. And to remind you that some of you who are struggling with the narrators, the naive narrator is the narrator that's inside your character at that time of the story, experiencing the story as it's happening, speaking in the present tense. Now, the story that I just read to you, that begins that way. It's in, except for one line, it's all in the naive narrator. I'm going to read it to you again. Now I want you to listen differently this time. I want you to listen and to see if you can hear, sense, feel, imagine, get a sense of, whether it's with your ears or your body or sensation, what is really going on inside this little boy, little 12-year-old Mark. What's going on? What is his committee talking about? What are the voices in his head? What's that chaos that's inside his head? What is it? I'll read it again. It's exactly the same words and everything that I read before. I'm not changing anything. That would be cheating. I'd be helping you out. So, okay, here we go. Time. And as you listen, one more thing. This is something I do habitually, which I think is really good. As you're listening, have a piece of paper in front of you. Don't use a computer, iPad, or anything electronic like that. Just have a piece of paper in front of you and a pen, and just hold the pen over the paper and listen. And then scribble. You hear something, just write it down. Even if you can't read it later, hopefully you can read it later, but just let whatever is coming from the story that's going through you, that's impacting you, just let it go onto the paper, whatever it is. Whatever thoughts, whatever words, whatever images, just let it come out. Just let it flow straight through you. Okay, here we go. It's recess. I'm 12 years old. Somehow I made it as far as the 5th grade. I'm outside again. I'm staring at the yard, the schoolyard full of students. They're laughing, playing, teasing, happy. They're having a great time. I don't want to move. I don't move. But I don't want to be alone. I know I'm supposed to mingle, as Mom says. I know I'm supposed to find friends, as my dad says. So I'm looking, I'm watching. I need to find someone to play with, to talk with, or just to be with, so I can tell Mom that I mingled. I shouldn't be alone. I don't want to be alone. Well, that's not true, really. When I was 12, I wanted to be alone. It's all I wanted. I knew if I stayed alone, no one would talk to me, which was really good. I knew that back then that I didn't have anything to say to anybody because I knew I wasn't very smart. So I was happiest when I was alone. You have to learn how to talk to people, Mark. That's my dad. He can talk to anybody. Hey, Curly. Oh, I know that voice. That's Benny McNamara. No one else sounds like Benny. It's all gravelly and raspy because he's been smoking so many cigarettes. You know, I wish I'd liked cigarettes because if I could smoke them. Hey, Curly! I turn and look across the yard, and there's Benny, and he's looking at me. He's looking right at me. And now he's walking towards me, and he keeps yelling, hey, Curly! Wow. Curly must be my new nickname. I think it is. I guess it is. I hope it is. I mean, that's really nice. I like it. It must be because of my curly hair. I love my curly hair. Benny gives all his friends nicknames. And now he's giving me one. Wait till I tell Mom and Dad. Wait till I tell them. That'll make them so happy. And I can tell them that I have friends. And Benny's getting closer with his buddies, Elmo, Hopalong, and Decker. Those are great nicknames, too. Hey, girly, nice legs. Oh, shit, oh, no. Oh, no. It's not Curly, it's Girly. I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. I gotta go. Hey, Girly, you like your new nickname? I'm gonna cry. No, don't cry. Don't let them see you cry. What do you think, Decker? You think Girly likes his new nickname? Gotta pee. I gotta pee. I can't pee, but I gotta pee. Yeah, I think he likes it a lot. I think Girly wants to be a girly. They all laugh, except for Benny, who's standing in front of me now, his cigarette hanging from his lips. Hopalong and Elmo are leaning on his shoulders, giggling and leering at me. Decker drifts behind me, mumbling to himself. Benny takes his cigarette and flicks it straight at me. It bounces off my chest. Girly got nothing to say? Don't cry. Please don't cry. Don't let them see you crying. Tears rip at the edge of my eyes. I wet my pants. I don't move. Okay, now, question. Do you hear the committee? Do you have an, are you, okay, Naomi gave me a thumbs up. She heard something. That's good. You hear the committee. The rest of you, thumbs up, you hear the committee. Do you get a sense of what's going on inside the boy? Now, as it's written, there are some lines, don't cry, don't do that. That's the committee. But there are other places where the committee is there where it's just implied what's going on. The important thing is what you want the audience to do is actually the power of projection. Once they get a sense of what's going on inside, the audience will fill it in more and more and more and more because they want to know what's going on inside. They want to know what's going on inside your character as you're telling that story. That's what they want to sense. That's where they want to be. So let's talk a little bit more about the committee. The committee is one of the most crucial aspects of storytelling you have. It's one of your most powerful tools. Now think about it. There's one thing I've said a lot about storytelling, if you've watched some of the Film Courage interviews and clips and stuff like that. But one thing we were talking about in the last Film Courage interview I did was the idea, the thought, the fact, I believe, that the events of a story are not the story. Now, the story I'm reading to you, the events of that story, even that portion of the story, me standing in the schoolyard, Benny yelling at me, coming over to me, flicking the cigarette, calling me girly, those are the events of the story. They're very clear. You get to see those. But the events of the story are not the story. The events are necessary. The events are necessary for the truth of the story, for the real story to happen. And what the real story is what's happening inside your main character. And since this is autobiographical, what's happening inside you, your character, as the scene is going on. That's what the audience wants to know. Now, it's very interesting. I have some people on the screen here like Wendy and other people who I've worked with on developing and directing solo shows. When you're doing a solo show, one thing is really interesting, and which we talk about as we're developing a show and doing the show, and this is, you know, a lot of the shows that I've done, like A Bronx Tale and Time Flies When You're Alive. And one key thing that I talk about the performers with is, you know, your story is interesting. Your story is interesting, but that's not really what the audience wants. What the audience wants is you. They want to get to know you. You're on stage telling a story for an hour and a half about events in your life. It's an autobiographical one-person show. They want to get to know you. The events, what happens are interesting. But what's the richness is what is going on inside you. And now we're back to the committee. Now we're back to that world inside you and what's going on inside you. Now, this is all, besides being the core of your story, the committee is the power, the real power and depth of the naive narrator. Because when you think about the story I just read to you, if you were there on that schoolyard and you were standing near me even and watching what's happened, what would you see? What would you get? Well, you see me standing there all alone, and then you see three or four other guys approach me and talk to me. One flicks a cigarette, and you go, okay, hit him with a cigarette. And they say some things to each other about girly or curly or something, and that's about it. In fact, the young boy, little 12-year-old Mark, doesn't say anything, not a word. So that's what you would get. That's not the story. The story is what's going on inside little Mark. Now this is the world of the naive narrator. And the naive narrator has the knowledge, the power, and the experience. The experience is important because the naive narrator is experiencing what's going on in that moment. And the naive narrator is in that moment expressing that to you, the audience, verbally, narrating. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm feeling. Here's what's going on. I don't want to pee. I don't want to cry. I want to run. I can't run. All of those things. You have the power of the naive narrator to take the audience deep inside your character at the moment. That's where the audience wants to be. That's what the audience wants to feel. That's what the audience wants to experience. We don't want to just see a story. We want to experience the story. We want to experience it through you. So part of your homework for next week, always the homework is the same thing, rewrite the story. This time it's rewrite the story, focusing on the ally and the nemesis inside your character during the story. Focus on it. Now, you may focus on it and you may come up with, that's why I asked you to write that list, and you can write the list about your character at that moment. That'll give you another clear idea of what's going on, the positives and the negatives that are going on inside the character. And it'll give you an idea of, oh, almost like a menu. I could pick from these. I could reveal some of this. The first time you do it, it may be clumsy. That's okay. It may be awkward. It may be right on the nose. That's fine. The first thing to do is just step into that world. Step into the world of the naive narrator, expressing openly and honestly exactly how he or she or your character is feeling at that moment. Exactly how he's feeling at that moment. Now, the wonderful thing about this kind of writing, and it may get trimmed down later, but don't worry about it, is you could stop at any one moment. I could stop. For instance, I didn't in this writing, but I could have, which would have been kind of fun. I could have stopped at the moment of the cigarette hitting me and say, okay, let's let the naive narrator loose to express anything and everything he is thinking, feeling, fearing, desiring at that moment. And just let it go. Stop time. Stop the forward progression of the story and just let it loose. So, and what it'll do for you as the writer, that's the storyteller, is it'll allow you to say, okay, this is what's really going on. Wow, this is a lot of stuff going on right here. Now you may want to trim it back, you may want to modify it, whatever later, but you'll see what possibilities are there. You see the richnesses you have at any moment in the story. So that's part of your homework tonight. The story will get longer. Don't worry about it. The story will become even clumsy for a while. Don't worry about it. Just write the story. Okay, this is clear to everyone so far. I'm just doing a check around the room just to see how you're going. Hands up, hands down. I also look to see if everybody's still there on camera, if anybody's left yet. Nobody's left yet. Okay, we're all doing okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's wonderful to see all of you. Okay, now let me move forward a little bit to something slightly different. You saw that Elsha put in one of the emails something about socks. Let's do this. A thumbs up if you read something about socks. Judith, are you shaking your head? No. You didn't get that email, Judith? Well, we'll make sure you get it. Okay, I'll cover the thing about the socks now. Okay, here's the idea. Two different color socks. Black and white is very, very sort of traditional and easy and obvious. Now we're back to the committee. We're back to the ally and the nemesis, okay? And what we have here is a sock. This is the nemesis. This is my nemesis. This is the nemesis that has comments on what is going on in my story, what's going on in my character. So one way to be able to exercise, explore the characters, these two characters, the ally and the nemesis, is actually to make them into just little hand puppets. One white sock, one black sock. You can do it. Now, I'll give you an idea. I'm going to start reading the story again. I'm not going to read as much of it as I did before. I'm going to start it again, just to give you an idea of how this can go. This is a great exercise. This is a little tricky. Okay, I'm going to read to you the first 4 lines. It's recess. I'm 12 years old. Somehow I made it as far as the 5th grade. I'm outside again. I'm staring at the yard. The schoolyard is full of students, laughing, playing, teasing, happy. They're all happy. Okay, just that little bit. Now, the question is, here's the question. Question is, what is the nemesis saying during that, at that time? What is going on? That voice is inside that little boy's head. Now, this is the 12-year-old talking, except for one line. Somehow I made it as far as 5th grade. That's really the omniscient narrator, but don't worry about that right now. But that little boy is standing there. He's 12 years old, looking in the schoolyard, and everybody's playing happy. What is that nemesis saying? Now, one way you can do this is read it again and allow the nemesis to speak. It's recess. I'm 12 years old. Yeah, who cares? I'm outside again. I'm staring at that. It's always staring at the yard full of students. You're stupid. Why don't you go out there and do something? I'm laughing. They're teasing. They're happy. They're really happy. Yeah, you're miserable. You're miserable. I don't want to move. I don't want to be alone. I'm supposed to mingle as my mom. Oh, forget that. Forget that. Just go home. That's the nemesis. Now, if you can start to play with the ally and the nemesis that way, you'll exercise your brain. Now, it's difficult. The first time you try, it'll be difficult because it'll be difficult to read the story. Read the story at the same time as you're trying to improvise one of the voices. But there is another way you can do it, because now we have. This is my ally. She's cute. Her name is Softy, by the way. The nemesis is Vic. Softy, who sounds very much like my mother, which means she talks very soft. She doesn't talk very loud. But if we're starting at the beginning again, it's recess. I'm 12 years old. Oh, sweet Mark. I'm outside again. I'm staring at the yard full of students. Yeah, it's a lovely day. Have a good time. Laughing, playing, teasing, happy. A lot of happy students. Yeah, and you're happy too, aren't you? Now, that's a whole different voice. Now, both of these voices are going on at the same time. Now, if you want to try this, another homework assignment I'm going to give you, which is really cool, and I'll show you how it works, is you take your story, and there's several ways you're going to do this. You're going to you need somebody else to read the story, or you need to record the story. The best way to do is record it on something like Zoom or on your iPhone or whatever, so you can play it back and watch yourself reading the story. And then while you're reading the story, you have both of them. And now you're just listening to the story. The reason for recording it is so you can just listen to your story. Listen, 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 listen. And then, like I was talking about before, listening, can you hear the voices? Listen, do you hear what the voices are possibly saying that is not written there? And then you can voice them while you're playing the story. And if you do, I suggest what you do, a little bit like what I did, don't do the whole story. Just do the first minute. Start out with the first minute or two, just a little bit. And then try it. Then go back, play it again, and try it again, try it again. This way, what you're doing is you're exercising your imagination, you're actually giving voice to what you are hearing. And because this is autobiographical, I know from experience, Wendy knows this, and everybody who's worked with me knows this, you will start to trigger things that you had not imagined, which are actually true. You're stimulating memories, you're stimulating impulses that existed and still exist somewhere in your body. They're starting to come out. And they will come out. And then if you're really courageous, record it, do this, and record the talk. Record that too. This is an exercise. Now the goal is to get deeper and deeper inside your characters. To get deeper, to understand more about who your character is and how they work. Okay, how are we doing now? Now I'm going around the room and just checking. We got thumbs up, thumbs up. Judith, you're nodding your head. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. Wendy's got 2 thumbs up. Both are, you got thumbs up. That's good. I'm just looking around the room. Eugene, you're doing okay? That's a thumbs up. I can see it. Yeah, Sandy, thank you. Thank you. Oh, Nora. Oh, Nora, you have your sock. Nice sock. Beautiful. Beautiful. Brett, Martin, good, 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 good. Okay, great. Great. I'm glad this is sinking in a little bit. This is really, really important. There is another technique which I can only touch on now, which a lot of you know about, and it's actually this topic, which is a part of what we're doing right now in this moment. But this topic is actually the topic for another course we're doing, another 6-week course like this. And that's a course on the interrogation process. I'm going to explain this to you a little bit. It may get a little confusing, but don't worry, you don't have to remember it. It'll be clear to you. You all understand the committee, which is really good. Now think about a screenplay or a fictional screenplay, okay? In that screenplay, there are a lot of characters. One aspect of screenwriting, which is very difficult, is it's very hard to convey to the reader of the screenplay exactly what's going on inside the characters. It's really very, very difficult. It'd be much easier to write a novel, and then you could just go at it and really explain it in great detail, but not in a screenplay. So in screenplays, you get what the characters are doing, where they are, what they're doing, and what they're saying. You get a lot of behavior, you get a lot of dialogue on action and behavior, but you don't get really great insights into what's going on inside the characters. That's why with a screenplay, we rely heavily, those of us who direct films, we rely heavily on the skills of the actor to bring what is really going on inside the character to the screen. That's the actor's job, is to bring what's unwritten. But these are characters. These are characters who are supposed to be like real people, we assume. And if all of us have a committee, then every character in a screenplay has a committee, although nobody knows what it is or what it's in there because it's not written. It's not written in the screenplay at all. So the interrogation process that I've developed, I started developing it about 20 some years ago, is a process of the way I work with actors to help create characters. And the way we do it is through me interrogating, not the actor, but the character. And through the interrogation process, which I'm not going to get into now, but just so you understand it, I can build and create the committee inside a character. That's what I can do. In other words, the character is built from inside, not outside. The character is built from the committee out, and I can stimulate the committee. I can create the committee. What I will try to remember to do, I can send you a link sometime during the week. I can send you a link so you can see the interrogation process in action with me, with a couple of actors, so you can see how it works. So that's the interrogation process. With writers, with you, I can or could interrogate any one of you about the character that's inside you or the story you have just written, your autobiographical story. I can also, if you're a writer, I could interrogate other characters that are inside you that are all fictional. Let's say you've written a fictional screenplay, and I can interrogate you as your protagonist because that character lives inside you. But still, through the interrogation, I'm building the committee inside that character, which may not be known to you that deeply or that profoundly or that richly as it would through the interrogation process. So this is a process of bringing characters, the inner workings of the characters, actually the chaos inside the characters, to the surface so the characters can exist authentically. So another aspect of your homework, write this down. Let me explain one more thing about interrogation. Interrogation is done, like most interrogations, mostly with questions. Every once in a while, there might be a statement or an insertion of a piece of information, but mostly it's questions. It's asking the character questions, forcing the character to answer questions that the character may not have thought of at that time or doesn't know the answer, but has to come up with an answer. So I'm asking a lot of questions. In your homework, what I want you to do is start a list of questions. Now, this will sound a little odd to you at the beginning, but it's really, really powerful. You have in your story that you've written for this course a story that you're at the center of the story. You are the protagonist of that story at whatever age you are. So there's that character, which is you in the story. I want you to write a series of questions that you have now. You have that you want to ask that character. Now, let's say in my story, I wrote this, my story that I'm reading to you now, 12 years old. So I have this 12-year-old Mark Travis at 12 years old. Are there a lot of questions I would like to ask him? I would love to ask him a lot of questions. There's a lot of things I would like to know about him that I don't remember, that I have forgotten, or maybe I never knew. I don't know. How well do I really know that character? I think I know him well because that was me. We think we know the character well because we remember the moments. But how well do we really know that character? So your homework is to write a series of questions that you would, if you had the opportunity, and you don't yet, if you had the opportunity, a series of questions that you would like to ask your character, and just start writing. Don't try to answer them. Do not try to answer them. You're not ready to answer them yet. You're only ready to ask the questions. Just write a series of questions. And the wonderful thing about this is you can just write and write and write and write. You'll be amazed at even the questions that come out of you. And they don't have to be appropriate. They can be inappropriate. They can be offensive. They can be probing, and you want them to be probing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Write the questions. Now, what's going to happen? This gets back to the email. On Thursday, you will get an email from me. Open it. Okay, that's the first thing. Open the email. Maybe I should put in the subject line, open me. Would that help? Okay, open the email. Because the second part of this exercise that I'm giving you, this homework, will be in that letter. I'm not going to tell it to you now. I want you just to do the first part, which is the questions. I just want you to immerse yourself in these questions. And then you'll get the email later, so you can do the second part of the email. Second part of the exercise. And probably between now and then, you'll get more emails. Maybe we'll see from Elsha, who is constantly creating new pieces of information, new diagrams, new charts, new explanations of this process for you. She's creating all of this for you. So whenever you see an email from us, just open it and see what's inside. We try to, in the subject line, let you know what's inside, but we can't let you know everything. Open the email. Okay. How's everybody doing so far? We're getting very close to our Q&A. Everybody's okay? Okay. Nobody's struggling. So you have a lot of homework already. You know what the homework is. Good. Okay, now what I'm going to do, because this is what I'll do each time, I'm going to read you the rest of the story, the rest of this story. I left you at a point where, where I wet my pants out in the schoolyard. That's where we stopped. So now we are going to continue. Make a choice how you want to listen. What I would listen for if I were you, let's do this. This has to do with the voices too. Listen to what is in between the lines. Listen to what is not expressed explicitly. Now, this also requires, which I think you understand, you're also listening to yourself. Because you're going, oh, I think I know what he means. That's listening to you. I know that's what's going on. Now, you may be right, you may be wrong, doesn't matter. But listen to what's in between the lines, what you think now this gets a little tricky, what you think I'm trying to say as the character, the 12-year-old who's talking to you, or what you think I'm trying to tell you as the adult telling the story. Just be aware, there's two of us. There's me, 77, there's the other Mark, 12. We're both involved. We're both talking to you. Okay. So I left off with tears rip at the edge of my eyes. I wet my pants. I don't move. I'm hiding in the toilet. I have a fistful of paper towels. I'm rubbing the wet area of my pants. I know if I rub hard enough, it will spread the wetness so you really can't see it. I've done it before. It's worked before. But these pants are different. Why did I wear these pants? Why didn't I wear something darker and thicker so you can't see anything? Untuck my shirt, grab my books, put them in front of me, move fast, get into the seat, fast as possible. Don't look at anyone in the eyes. Don't let them see that you see them seeing you. Click, click, click. 3 more clicks and it's 3 o'clock, end of the day. Time to go home. Out of the room, books in place, down the hallway, eyes down. I can make it through the doors, into the yard, head for home. Hey, girlie, carry my fucking books for me. It's Johnny. Johnny Decker. He's right in front of me. But he's not looking at me. He's playing with Beth's hair and licking his lips like a lizard. I'm frozen. Johnny is carrying his baseball bat and glove and his gym bag over his shoulder. His school books are in a bag on the floor. Johnny's one of the best athletes in school, so it makes sense that he has to carry all his baseball stuff in his gym bag. So of course he needs help carrying his books. And I got room. I don't have a gym bag and stuff, and I don't play baseball at all. And besides, I can use his bag to cover my wetness. So I just say, okay, Johnny. Decker. The name is Decker. Get it right or get out of the way. Oh, okay, Decker. Johnny begins to walk away. I pick up Johnny's book bag and follow him across the yard. You know, even though Johnny lived just down the street from my house, I had never been to his house. Maybe it was because I was never invited. Maybe it was because I was afraid of his mother. She was a chain-smoking, loud-mouthed bag of anger, always looking for an argument. She scared my mom, too. As we were approaching his house, I was hoping that she wasn't home. I walk behind Johnny in silence as he cuts through the front yard and blasts into the house. I follow quickly so I don't get hit by the swinging door. Hey, I'm home, I'm hungry. Johnny drops his bat and glove and gym bag in the middle of the living room floor, and he heads into the kitchen. I'm not sure where to put his books, but I don't think I'm supposed to put them on the floor. Johnny Decker, how many times do I have to tell you to stop leaving your goddamn garbage all over the house? Johnny's mother plows through the living room, ashes falling from her cigarette. I hold the books tightly. She grabs the bat, swings it above her head, and charges into the kitchen. I'm alone, shaking. There's an odd and eerie silence. Should I leave? Can I leave? I mean, what if I just... Jesus Christ, Mom, what the hell are you doing? And Johnny comes charging out of the kitchen, a Coke in his hand, his mom right behind him. Listen, young man, things are going to change in this house. No son of mine is going to talk to me that way. It's time I showed you how to show me some respect. Johnny stops suddenly. He turns to his mother. He's inches from her face. Fuck off. He snatches the cigarette out of her hand, takes a deep drag on it, and then plunges it into his Coke. It makes that soggy, sizzling sound. He hands her the Coke with the soggy cigarette. Clean this up. He snatches the bat out of her hand, swings it wildly at a lamp, knocking it over, and charges out of the room. Mrs. Decker doesn't move. She takes a hard look at the soggy cigarette and the Coke in her hand, as if deciding what to do with it. Then, for the first time, she notices me. Standing there, quivering, book bag pressed tight against my crotch. A new voice from the depths of some dark cave comes rumbling out. What the hell are you looking at? I wet my pants again. I'm sitting at my favorite spot where I can be alone, on my favorite boulder deep in the woods. No one knows about this spot. No one knows that I'm here. I'm naked from the waist down. My pants and underwear are hanging on a branch. They'll be dry by the time Mom rings the dinner bell for us to come home. Couple of hours. I've done this before. The silence and the smell of the pine trees wrap themselves around me. It's just me and my best friends. It's okay, Mark. You can tell your mother about the new nickname Curly. It's a name that the guy in that musical, Oklahoma, that she likes so much, and she keeps playing and singing to it. She'll like that. She won't know. Hey, how about what Johnny did? Was that cool or what? Saying "fuck you" right to her face like that. I mean, now you could do that. What the hell's the matter with you, wetting your pants like that? What are you, some kind of a baby? You want some diapers? Do you want to? You can do it. You can do it. You can be just like Johnny Decker. You can. You can stand up for yourself against anyone. You just need to try it. Try it tonight with your mom. She's not scary. She won't do anything. Just say to her, ring. Mom's ringing the dinner bell. She knows I can hear it. She knows I'm always close enough to home to hear it. I pull my underwear and pants off the tree branch. They're both still wet. I tuck the underwear into my school bag with my books. I rub my still wet pants on the ground, mashing dirt and grass stains all over them, hoping that will work. No, I know, Mom, I'm sorry that they got so dirty, but yeah, me and Benny and Johnny were just wrestling in the yard after school. No. It wasn't a fight. It was just good fun wrestling. I'm pretty good at it. At least that's what Johnny said. I mean, he had no idea how strong I am. You think my pants are dirty? You should see his. I know. His mom will be furious. I slip on the stained, wet pants. My body shivers with the cold wetness. I pull out my shirt, place my school bag in front of my crotch, and walk out of the woods. Okay, now we're at Q&A time. So Q&A time, I would love to, now you can unmute yourself. I would love to hear you, whoever wants to speak. I think, by the way, we may have lost Diego because,
He's back.
oh, Diego's back. Diego was in the middle of a storm and all his power went out, but I guess he's back. So welcome back, Diego. So Q&A time. And by the way, a couple things before we start the Q&A. I'm happy, we're supposed to go 90 minutes here. I'm happy to go longer if we need, because I want to take care of you guys. Second thing is I do whatever you throw into the chat. If you want to throw things into the chat, I do print out the chat and read it later. So if there are things you'd rather just put into the chat during the Q&A, you can do that as well. So we have questions? Okay, go ahead.
I'm wondering about the committee. It seems like you started with the Nemesis and the Ally, and that's the committee, but it sounds also like any inner dialogue could be the committee. Or is it a special interest to kind of keep them as polarities?
No. Well, yes, first of all, you're right, Jan. Any inner dialogue is the committee. Anything that's going on inside the mind of that character, any kind of discussion, debates, discovery, insinuation, or whatever that is part of the committee. Okay. When it doesn't become the committee is when the character actually expresses it. Then it moves out of the committee. But you're right. So it isn't just these two voices. And in fact, it's a whole wide range of voice. In fact, it's chaos. Sometimes there are so many voices it's hard to distinguish them. Great. Thank you. Anybody else? Nobody else?
Yes, I raised my hand.
Okay, who's this?
Gail Silver.
Okay, Gail, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I am a little overwhelmed by all this, but it is very exciting, actually. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
The one thing that, well, first of all, when I did the second, and I do open the emails, thank you, they're terrific.
Good.
Yes. You. In fact, that's part of it's overwhelming because there's so much that I have to keep adding to it. So yeah, but I'm trying to be fine with it.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but the one thing that even came up even when I was doing the second story, and now I'm going to do the third, is well, I guess first with the committee with the two sides, that the vocabulary. since since this story, I'm 10 years old,
Right.
and a lot of times the uh, even the character at 10 years old, sometimes my vocabulary, I'm not sure if that's really the vocabulary I would have used at 10 years old, that it's maybe too smart at the
Mhm.
time. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not quite sure about that. And it's the same with the two. Yeah, so it's the naive, and then it's also the two sides in terms of their having the conversation. What things don't I know? Sometimes I think, gee, would I really know about this at 10 years old? And it is part of the story, so it's confusing me, and maybe I shouldn't be, but I want your opinion of it.
Well, yeah, no, these are excellent questions, Gail. Thank you. Um, yeah, one is like I'm writing about a 12-year-old, and I have to be very careful. And I'm even aware, reading this today, there's some words in there I'm going, this doesn't sound like a 12-year-old, you know. Now, and which means I may go back and change that. But so the vocabulary is really important because we want the listener, the audience, to maintain the belief that they're listening to a 12-year-old and not to an adult or whatever age. We want to keep it in that age. So the first thing to do is be very clear what you want to express. Now, which brings up your second question: what does that young 12-year-old or 10-year-old really know? What do they really know? But this is where the omniscient narrator can save you. In other words, you could have your 10-year-old say something, and then your omniscient narrator goes, okay, well, that's not really true. That's not really true. I mean, what I really felt, now you can use all the vocabulary you want. What I really felt at that time was this, that, and the other thing.
Ah,
You know, in other words, think of it this way, Gail. And I haven't really brought this up before, but this is really important, so I hope everybody's listening. I'm going to use my two hands. Where are they? Well, I don't want to confuse it with the socks. Here's the omniscient narrator, right? And here's the naive narrator. These are two aspects of you, Gail.
right.
One is today, and the other one is back there at the time of the story. So as you're telling the story, you are able by using these techniques to tell the story from two different perspectives simultaneously.
Ah,
And we will get both of them, and one can correct the other. Now, the naive does not know about the omniscient, but the omniscient certainly knows about the naive one. So if the naive says, I'm really, 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 really happy. Well, that's not true. I was never happy, but I kept saying I was happy. I think maybe to try to convince myself that I was happy because I was miserable. Now that's you stepping in and putting it into perspective, but allowing the naive character, the naive narrator, to be purely who she is. Okay?
yeah, that's terrific. Actually, yeah. And the other part that I noticed after I read the second version is that I liked a small part of the first story better than I liked the version that I gave of the second story.
Okay.
So should I maybe not worry about that for now in terms of editing, and I'm going to keep doing it I'm trying to let it go, which is, believe me, not the way I usually operate. So I'm trying to, just like you said, make it a mess. I'm listening to you about that, and to make it less perfect. When I finished, it was like, it felt like, what happened? In other words, it's not usually I would want to sort of go back and perfect it or whatever. And I sort of was listening to you say, just allow it, and then we're going to go on,
Getting back, I understand that, saying, in the draft 1, I like this section much better than the way it came out in draft 2.
Right.
I would not focus on, what do I do? Do I put that in there? Because now you're doing an editing process. How do I merge this and that? I would just look at draft 1, hold on to it. I assume you have it printed out. Make a note. I like this better than what's in the draft 2, and leave it. And then keep moving forward. Because what you want to do during this process, especially during these 6 weeks, is keep plowing forward through this story, using all these techniques and just seeing what emerges. You may get to the end of the whole process and look back at that paragraph you thought you liked better and go, do you know what? I don't need that paragraph, or I don't want any of it. So don't go back and try to edit it now. Just go through, make notes of what reactions you have to the material as you're doing it, and then just keep moving forward. And the homework I've given you for this week is heavy duty stuff. It's gonna bring up a lot of stuff. And
Right.
So I just don't want you thinking about, oh, I should go back and tweak that or redo that. No, just keep moving forward.
Okay, and might I ask you, you said, I think you said it, that you were gonna let us listen to each of the lessons until the end of September?
We post these lectures on YouTube and we give you the links, right?
Right.
Just the people in this group. Please do not share them with other people.
I'm not, but I was gonna ask if we could have it even longer, because I can see that it's like I keep mulling it over, and I probably would, in other words, then it's going to not be available to us after September, right?
After the end of September.
Yeah, is there any way to extend that? Because really, this is a lot, and I love it.
Yes, we can extend it.
Okay, I'm not sharing it with anybody. I think it's terrific.
Okay, thank you. Happy to do that.
Okay.
Happy to do that.
Hey, Roland here.
Roland, yep.
Hey, as far as your curriculum goes, is there a way to, I feel like I'm over explaining quite a bit in my story.
Yeah.
What is that a symptom of? Is that because I'm not getting the committee in there?
Maybe.
Okay.
Hard to say what it's a symptom of. But if you're like me, Roland, it's a symptom of wanting to say everything that's going through your brain, so you want to write it all down so everybody gets it.
Yeah, the story there's a violent part at the end.
Yeah.
And I feel maybe I'm stalling on that. It just feels like it's too shocking of an ending.
By stalling, do you mean you're avoiding writing the ending?
Well, I have to write it because it happened, but it's so, it's from very light to very darkness.
Yeah.
And it's the event. I just kind of worry about the audience. I mean, I don't know why I'm not worried about me, because I experienced it, but
yeah.
It's just this, people will say about my stories like, wow, we really didn't want to hear that, but it's a bunch of truth. And
yeah.
So
at the moment, I wouldn't worry about what the audience can handle. At the moment, at least during this process that we're doing now in this course for these first 6 weeks, is just to get the story out clear and as honest and as authentic as you can. If you later go, if you think this is just too brutal and too violent for an audience, at least you have it, and then you can say, okay, I'm going to tone it down, or I'm going to modify it. But get it out first. And all that explaining or overwriting you were talking about may be you avoiding writing the end.
Well, I did jot the very last words, which is my mother's response to what happened.
Yeah.
I put that at the beginning.
Good.
And it reread it, and it softened it a lot, like it was a warning.
Yeah.
And then when you got to that point, it wasn't so hard. But now I want to go back through with committee and think about this.
Right. The main
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. The main thing for everybody during this process is just keep playing with it. Don't worry about perfection. Don't worry about honing it or shaping. What you're doing is you're digging. We're being archaeologists. We're digging into the earth to see what's in there, and a lot of stuff will come up, and that's what we want. We want a lot of stuff to come up. We can decide later how to shape it. That's a later part.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? You're welcome.
Yes.
Wendy, I'm sorry. Joseph, yes, sir.
I had two questions by writing this week. The first question, my child character has a stutter, and it was about in the writing how much is clear thinking and how much is like the stutter voice to make the story clear.
Right.
And the second was when I was writing, I very often got sidetracked. On the one thing, I thought it was good because I remembered details about things I would not have thought before, but it took me from the part of the story I needed to go in. So how it's about the sidetrack? Should you stop it, or is it good collecting these things?
Well, first of all, it's good collecting. I mean, if you go down what Elsa and I call going down another rabbit hole, you're not wasting time, you're just spending time.
Okay.
And be careful about criticizing yourself. Say, oh, no, I should stay on the story. Don't do that. If you go down that rabbit hole, go. You have no idea what's going to happen. And you may later go, well, that was a whole another journey I went on that I didn't need to go on for this story. But you may think, Joseph, you may think, that's kind of an interesting story all by itself. Let me put that aside, and then I'll get back to the story. But now I've got that. So many times, I'm going to tell you a quick story. This happened many, many years ago when I was running a lot of, it was called then solo workshops. I had one actress who was writing a solo show. She mentioned another story. I said, write that story for next week. She came in the following week, and it was her turn. And I said, asked her if she wrote the story. She said, no, I couldn't. And I go, really? Why? Why not? She says, well, because there was another story that insisted on being written first. And this was a story about her hiding in the garbage in her home, hoping that her parents would panic, thinking that she'd been kidnapped, hiding in the garbage pail. And she wrote that story. But the idea that this story demands to be written first. So many times, Joseph, that detour you're going on may be a story that's saying, no, you tell me. So honor it. Go with it for a while. You can always come back. Okay? And now what your question about there was a question about the stuttering.
Yes, because the character, the story is about the stutter, but the problem is on the storytelling how much you could use that. Or should I use the narrator to overcome that? And or can he have a clear thinking when he's thinking and stuttering when he's talking?
He could like what little I know about stuttering, there are many stutterers who have become famous singers. They can sing a song, but then they talk afterwards and they're stuttering. In other words, expressing themselves in another way, the stuttering goes away. So you could have no stuttering while he's narrating to the audience, but then the stuttering comes in while he's in conversation with other people. That would work. Okay, anybody else? Good to see you, Joseph. Yes, Sandy.
Oh, thank you.
Who's it?
I noticed that it seems that most people are writing about childhood events. I am not. I'm writing about a very recent event.
Okay.
Does it work as well if I do that, or would it be better for me to pick something further back?
No. First of all, Sandy. First of all, it's great to see you, Sandy. Second of all, stick with the story you picked.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Even though I don't know the story, there's a reason you picked it.
Yes, there's a difference.
Which you may or may not know.
Okay.
Totally. But by writing that story, Sandy, you'll discover what it is. So that's first of all, stick with the story that you arbitrarily selected. Also, if you're writing a story that's very close in time to now, maybe it was just a year ago or even closer, whatever, it doesn't matter. That means you're a lot closer to it. And the struggle in there now and writing it, which is a good struggle, is you don't have as much distance from it as a childhood story, for instance. So you're going to run into more challenges, more emotional challenges as you write it. It's all good. It just could be a tougher road. I've had people writing stories that happened the day before while they're in the middle of something, and that's like so close. That gets really tricky. But the thing is, the stories you picked, stick with it. There's a reason for it. You
Well,
picked
yeah,
it.
there's a definite reason. I'm very aware of the reason.
Okay.
I'm still very stuck in it, so I'm hoping to work my way out. By
Good.
writing.
Well, yeah, and use the writing and use the story to do that. Exactly.
Great.
This brings up another huge topic, which we won't get into yet, because I want to get back to the question. No, there were other people who had questions.
Yes. Hi, Mark. It's Wendy Hammers.
Hello, Wendy. Wendy Kamenoff Hammers. Do you ever use Kamenoff anymore?
No.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
actually, one of the characters I'm writing about, I stole a little bit of my old name and stuck it in there. So yes.
Oh, okay.
Sandy Steinberg is my story sister, apparently, because she asked the exact same question I was going to ask, which is
okay.
I'm writing about a contemporary event. My mother suffered a stroke in January of 2017, and I'm writing about how my mother's stroke paralyzed our entire family. And
Wow.
I'm writing a screenplay, and I didn't know I was writing a screenplay until I started this class. So thank you for that. Just figured it out. It just said, poof, you're a screenplay. And I started writing interior, exterior. I'm like, what the fuck? I wasn't planning on writing a movie, but here we go. So my question is very similar to Sandy's. I'm writing, the inciting incident is what happened 3 years ago. And I'm sure there will be plenty of naive narrator that comes in when I go to flashback and find my childhood parts of it. But what happened that was so freaky, and I want to get your take on this, is this one in the opening scene, in the second scene, the 6-year-old version of me is sitting on my mother's lap while she's getting her hair done.
Yeah.
And I'm helping the hairdresser, handing her bobby pins. And I figured, well, of course, I'll just go to voiceover. It's a movie. And I'm like, no, fuck that. I don't want to do that. I didn't want to go into the Omni voiceover. And I thought, why can't I see the little girl sitting on the lap, but can't she talk like the grown-up? Like, can't the Omni know and just be speaking through, I don't know. I just had this weird feeling that maybe I want her to talk like a really smart adult, even though she's a little girl. So that's my question and my weird thing I'm throwing into the mix.
Okay. Now, I'm not. It is a weird question. I'm not quite sure what the question is. One is you're writing
The
something.
question is, I started in voiceover as a
Yep.
grown-up, okay? But then when we see the scene, the flashback scene, and I become this little girl, I want her to say, my mother was a Jewish high priestess. I want her to say what I would say as an adult, but she's the one that's telling us. Like, for a moment, she's Omni, even though she's the little girl. Can that work, or is that just too much screwing with the form that you're suggesting?
First of all, my feeling about things like that, anything can work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a matter of you setting up the convention of how you want to do that. It's a little bit like Joseph setting up the convention of the stuttering.
I
Once
love
that's
that.
set up, we got it. In other words, if your adult is telling the story and it's a recent story, then it goes back to you as 6 years old and you are still telling the story. You are still narrating the story.
Yes.
And I've
Yes.
seen this done, and it's been done brilliantly. I wish I could tell you which film it is, where I'll just give you a line, where the 6-year-old says a line like, Mommy, why does everybody call you a Jewish princess? Okay,
Right.
that's the line. And I've seen them do that where the line is coming out of the adult's voice, narration, lip synced to the child.
That's what I want. That's what I
And
picture.
so now we get the mix of the two, the young child, but the adult's voice coming through.
I like that you turned her into a princess. She's a Jewish high priestess, but I'll take the princess part too.
Well, Ted Princess, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear about what your mom is going through. And
Thank you so much.
that's tough.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank God for our art, because writing my way through this is helping. So
good.
Yeah.
Love to hear that.
grateful to be on this call with everybody. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Who's next? Roland, you have your thumb up for a reason.
This is Emmanuel.
Emmanuel, yes.
I had difficulties talking about the first draft of the story and the second draft, which was the homework. I had difficulties working on the second draft. The first draft was kind of like a stream of consciousness. It was really, I could dive deep into the character, and I saw things, and I felt things, and a magical moment. The second draft with the It's like the omniscient narrator, following the objectives and all that. I didn't really get into that zone switching between the two narrators. So is it important to practice that, to switch narrators while writing, or is it maybe better to kind of like separate the two processes and first write kind of like the naive narrative part of the story and then like fill in the other parts?
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand, because this gets back to what I was saying before about the learning a new instrument. You're still writing, but you're writing in a different way, and that's actually, from what I understand, that's what you're struggling with right now. Is I wrote a first draft, now I'm trying to do a second draft, and it feels awkward. It will feel awkward at the beginning. The Emmanuel, the important thing, and I can give you some tips on how to do this. The important thing is this is for everybody, find the way that works best for you. In other words, the way that works best for you. Let me write the whole thing in the naive narrator. Just write it that way. Okay, I put that aside. Now let me write the whole thing in the omniscient narrator. See if that, don't even think about switching back and forth. Just write the two. Now let me, now I'm going to look at what would happen if I cut from, just almost like cut and paste, go back and forth. That might work for you. In other words, find out I can tell you what works for me. I have a tendency, but then again, I've been doing this for many years, and I have to break this habit if I need to write everything in the naive narrator. I start there, I go all the way, I can go through the entire story. The story I read to you today was originally written totally in the naive narrator. Mm-hmm. And I had to go back and change part of it. But I know that writing in that naive narrator is a comfort zone for me to go through the entire story. Mm-hmm. Then I can go back and reshape it. Now thinking about the audience and thinking about the rhythms and the shifts and the changes I might want to make it a stronger story. Is that helpful at all, Emmanuel?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to experiment and try out different ways, but I feel my tendency is diving deep into one thing and then the other thing and then come.
Yeah, I'll tell you a quick story. There was a solo show that I did not direct, but I developed it. Very, very, very famous actress who came to work with me privately and wanted to create a one-person show, and literally could not write. I don't mean she couldn't write it. She could write a letter, but to sit down and write, she couldn't do it. She started writing and everything jammed up. She says, I can't. And she would sit there in front of me. I said, okay, just write what you just said. And she would try to write what she just said. She says, I can't. Mm-hmm. So we shifted. Finally, we shifted. And an entire solo show was created with her never writing. It was all done verbally. We recorded her. I would talk to her about the story and we would record it. And then she would have it transcribed. Then she would record and have it transcribed and record. That was her comfort zone. Her comfort zone was improvisation. She could improvise the story, but she could not write it. And once she had a transcript that we all sort of settled on, she could learn it. She was fine. So it's a matter of finding for you what works best, Emmanuel. So you may even want to say, let me just try this, speaking it into my phone. See if that feels better. Experiment with everything. Okay?
Mark?
Who's next? We got a couple.
It's Gail Silver. I just wanted to mention one thing that I tried that you suggested that I had trouble with it, but it actually was interesting. You said to start from the middle or another part of the story. And yeah. I found it difficult at first, but actually it turned out it really yielded some interesting things.
Good. Yeah, and anytime you can sort of upset the system, you'll probably reveal something rich.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. And I was shocked at that.
Okay, we have some more questions. I can see we got, hello, yes, go ahead.
Hi, this is Tariq. I have two questions, but I'll ask the first question. Here I'm wondering how do we use this method for future writing? Like if I'm making a documentary about a topic and it's about me, I'm going to tell you, it's about me going to the other. I'm in Canada, so I'm in like all the way in the western coast, and I have some family that lives in the east coast of Canada, and I'm thinking about taking a trip to go there and come back. So how do I? Is there a way I can use this method to, like, this story is going to be in future? It hasn't happened yet, but I've taken that trip many times, and I know what goes on in my head, and I don't want to use the previous trip that I've taken, but I'm wondering if I take this trip and then I go through pretty much the whole thing, like my childhood comes back, all the traumas comes back, because I'm doing this solo, and it takes me about 3 days to go to the end of the country and come back.
Right.
So I'm wondering, can I use this method for the future, or is it? I'm kind of confused because it is about the trip, but it is more how I'm going to, what all those traumas and all those events are coming back to me in the past while I'm driving. And it's kind of like meditation for me, that it happens, come back for me. And when I get to the other side and come back, I feel sort of healed. So I'm wondering, and this time I'm thinking about recording the whole thing because I'm a filmmaker. So I was wondering, record myself while I'm going through with that. So is there a way I can craft it for the future, or just record as much as you can and just
Well, okay, great question, Tariq. And as I understand it, you're shooting this film, which is a documentary, and you're going to be shooting it as it's happening. So, and you don't really know exactly what's going to happen. Is that right, on this journey?
Right.
Okay. So it's not about an autobiographical event yet. And it's not a scripted narrative scene. It's something that is going to happen. And I think one of the things you touched on, which is really important, what I would do, and it's going to be you're going to be filming it on this journey, right?
Right.
What you said about recording, you're recording you doing things and all that. How much are you recording of what's going on inside you at the moment?
I could say it out loud, like, this is what I'm feeling right now, and this is what's triggering me, or this is every time I pass through this area, and then this memory triggers, or now I'm bored and I'm thinking about this. Why am I thinking about this, or something like that? I can just ramble on, but I will be like, the camera will be like, I can rig up my car with a couple of cameras where it's seeing outside what's happening, and it can see me with different angles. But obviously I can't put a camera inside of my head where it's seeing.
No, but Tariq, like the naive narrator, if you have cameras running inside your car or whatever, several cameras running, you can let us know by speaking to the camera exactly what's going on inside you. Exactly what the committee is saying. I mean, even if it's a point like, I'm in the middle of doing this documentary, I have no idea why I started this. It's irritating me. It's irritating because I think I'm making a mess. Share with us whatever is going on. Now, you're doing it not about a past event. You're actually doing the naive narrator at the moment that you're in at the time. And all of that material that you can gather on camera, on audio on camera, could be invaluable when you're finally putting the film together at the end.
Right.
I mean, that's the best way I can think to actually use this material. Now, also, you said you're going through areas that you've been through before. You've been on this journey before.
Right.
And
but I did record it. I was just I didn't want it. I just wanted to just. I had to. I work here and I have some family down there, so I just basically, my daughter lives there with her mother. So we've been separated. So every time I'm going there, I'm thinking about why this happened. It shouldn't have happened.
Okay, one last question to you, Tariq. In this story, this film that you're making, there are events that have happened in these places that you're going to, like where your daughter and your ex-wife are.
Right.
There are events in the past that you remember.
Right.
Now, if there are events in the past that you remember, I mean, obviously you can't go back and shoot them because they're in the past. But you could tell us about them. In other words, you could say, last time I came through this part of the town, you know, it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it was. And the last time I saw my daughter. And now you could tell, very much in line with what we're doing now, you could tell that story. You could tell it in voiceover, you could tell it with images, whatever you want. And then you could use the naive narrator to let us know what your experience was then, even though it's in the past. It's a past story.
Wow. Okay, that's very helpful.
Yeah. Another thing which we'll be talking about next week is something called the gap. I'll just tell you quickly what it is, Tariq, because or tell everybody. It's about expectation versus results. What you expect to happen and then what does happen. Now, as we look back on our past stories, we'll be dealing with that with those. But as you're doing this journey, let us know every moment what you think is going to happen, what you hope is going to happen, what you expect to happen, which will be up against whatever does happen. But you're in that wonderful naive place. If you don't let us know what you're expecting, then the events that do happen have less resonance to them.
Oh, okay.
Okay? But we'll talk about that next week. Good question. Thank you. Sounds like an interesting project. Okay.
Hello. If you don't mind, I just have another question, and since no one is asking,
Okay. Who is this?
this is Tariq again.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm wondering. In the past, there have been there have been events where other people are involved. Some of them I have no contact with, so I cannot ask their permission if I can share this story, because I'm also sharing this story from my perspective,
Right.
how I saw it happen, and some of them people are I cannot ask their permission. You know, that would be just my take off that.
Okay.
So I don't know if you, I don't know legally if you can, I don't know if you're in a position to advise, like if it would be, like I don't want to get in trouble saying this and this person takes me to court and say, no, that's not what happened. And, or I dispute this or this person sue me for defamation or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's
that-
fear in my head whenever I'm telling those stories. Like, what if this person takes me to court and say, you know, or sue me for defamation or something like that? Even though that's like my opinion from my eyes, that's how I saw it, honestly, to the best of my ability.
Okay. Tariq, I wish I could help you there. I can't. That's not my area of expertise at all. Because you're getting into legal matters, and that's where you need a good entertainment lawyer, good attorney to help you know how to get the releases and how to get permission so people can't sue you or get upset or whatever. But that's not. I wish I could help you with that, but I can't. Okay, so I think we're at the end here. I want to thank you all. You all have your homework. You know to open your emails. Over that. Watch the replay. The replay of this will be up, and we had some camera problems at the beginning, so I think we lost the very beginning of this, but it was just the very beginning. But it'll be up soon. I'll let you know. You'll be sent the link. Remember, on Thursday, you're getting more information on the second part of the questions that you're going to ask your character. And meanwhile, stay cool. It's hot here in Los Angeles. Stay cool. Stay safe. Stay well. And we will see you 1 week from today. Thank you.